You are now tuned in to Unorthodox Gypsy, the podcast that delves into what makes people tick, live life through other people's experiences. Anyone, anywhere, anything.
Hold on, I need a swig real quick.
Pass that shit.
Oh, I gotta scoot up.
Blonde bitch. Get your blonde bitch at Crescent Brewery.
We cannot guarantee that she doesn't have herpes.
I mean, it is underneath the bridge in Nampa, you know what I mean?
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to Unorthodox Gypsy. I'm your host Alexandria and this is my husband Justin. And today we're getting cozy in our bed and we're going to have a after hours episode.
Don't think that anything's going to happen. You're just listening to a podcast.
No, it's after hours because we literally just put our kids to sleep and we have to do our podcast in our bedroom because that's the only place to do it. So, yeah. We thought that it would be pretty cool to tell you guys our story and a little bit more about who we are because I think we have a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, and it's gotten even more interesting over the last year.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I want to introduce you and a very brief, not rambled. He will ramble.
Alright, so the truth of the matter is we've already shot one podcast with us, but I'm pretty sure that Allie said like 4 words in 2 hours and 45 minutes. So I'm going to be pretty brief and to the point as often as possible.
Yeah, he's a chatty Cathy. I can't take him anywhere. But yeah, so just briefly introduce yourself in a nutshell, if you could.
My name's Justin Fergusson. I'm 32 years old. Born and raised in Nampa, Idaho. Grew up what I thought was a normal life, but looking back on it, it was pretty fucking chaotic. And I met Allie when I was 13 years old, and we hit it off instantly. I remember her getting out of a car. I was at a good friend of mine's house. We were skateboarding, and she came over with her best friend, Tessa. Tessa was dating my best friend at the time, and she got out, and I said, damn. Then I hit a little trick on the skateboard to look all cool, and then, yeah, anyways, we hit it off from there.
He was already going down the rabbit hole. Yeah, no, I mean, I share a very similar memory, although mine was a little bit different. Because I was, like, super self-conscious and super nervous, and I think I spoke, like, a whole of, like, 4 words the entire time I was there.
Say 5.
5? 5 words. Well, I mean, I think you're giving me some credit there.
Well, your name was one of the words. So.
Allie. You know, like, when you think back to just, like, how nervous you are when you're a kid, and especially when you're, like, around a crush, and you realize just how little you talk. I mean, like, we had multiple conversations on the phone.
We
like,
were just talking about that.
Not even conversations. We had multiple phone calls where we sat on the phone and said nothing to each other.
We were just talking to my daughter the other day, and I was explaining to her about old telephones and having to be on the cord. And then after that, the big deal was the cordless phones, and you can buy them in 4-packs. So all of us kids had our own, cordless phone in our bedrooms, and you would hear somebody, Justin, Allie's on the phone. And so I'd pick up the phone, and we'd just be like,
What are you doing?
What are you doing? I know it's the 17th time I've asked that in the last 10 minutes, but maybe you're doing something different.
But usually it was like, not much. What about you?
Not much, just hanging out, playing video games.
But no, we never went into detail. We would just say, not much. What are you doing? No.
Oh, no, I miss you was a lot. I
Oh.
miss you so much. Like, I've only seen you once, but I miss you so much.
So you were 13. I was 11.
Yeah.
So I mean, to put that into context, we were kids.
I'll be 33 this year.
Yeah.
And I met her in October when I was 13. So that means October of this year,
20 years.
I will have known my soulmate for 20 years.
Yeah.
So put that
And-
into perspective, millennials and Gen Z. Is it?
Gen X, I think.
No,
Xers?
Gen X is before us. It's Generation Z.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's your gig. You like to bring up all of the politics and stuff, which we're not doing. We're not bringing up politics.
I
today.
really was hoping that you would talk a little bit about it. Jesus.
Are you serious?
No. I mean, those balloons were just floating over, so
Oh
I've
my
got a lot to
goodness.
say
I
on
know
that.
you have a lot to say about that, but
I'm very, very political, but not in a sense like I can do anything about it. I'm a convicted felon, so I don't have a right to vote, but I feel like maybe I can change Allie's mind just by bringing facts forward and kind of maneuver a vote from my wife. But that's about all. That's the extent of mine, but she still doesn't always vote what I'm thinking. She does her own thing. She's kind of an independent person.
kind of. I'm an Aries, so I mean, I'm full blown independent.
But
INDEPENDENT.
tells you how old she is.
Oh yeah, that's true. I just realized that. Okay, I aged myself. Anyway, so back to our story. I want to dial it in a little bit. So yeah, we've known each other for 20 years this October, and that's crazy to think about. I was thinking about that earlier today, and of that 20 years, we've been like actually together and not just friends. Probably like. We were
10.
on and off again. Yeah, about 10, so about half of that.
Yeah.
So if we weren't together, we were friends, other than like a very short snippet of our life where we both just kind of went off and did our own thing and dated other people. And I decided to pursue hopes and dreams, and you decided to kill all of yours.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a slippery slope. I chose to go down there for a while. But,
What do you talk about it a little?
well, I don't really want to open it up too much. I mean, I made some poor choices in my life. Drug addiction was the biggest poor choice that I made because that led me down paths of having friends that were using, and their lives didn't amount to shit. So it was kind of I was always the center of the party, but that doesn't say much when you're the center of a drug party, you know what I mean? So drug use just took a hold of my life. But
I do think it's important that we bring that up, though, because that's a very prominent factor of, like,
I know.
our life.
I understand that, but that's what sparked the whole 245 minutes last time. But, all right, so I became a felon when I turned 21 years old.
But you were in and out of the system for as long as I have known you.
Unfortunately, for the majority of my drug addiction, I was a weed head. So I still believe that marijuana shouldn't be illegal, but I also look at it from a different light now because like I don't smoke weed because it just completely screws over my drive or any kind of confidence or any kind of motivation that I have. So it's not something that I could even use, even though I don't disagree with it. It's just a personal choice that I make. Now, I do know that these kids these days with all of this, the dabs and shit like that, I know that I remember the first time that I smoked chronic, and that was when I went from Mexican swag to chronic. And just that slight increase of like 5%, I thought I was going insane. So it's like these people that are smoking 100% THC out of the vape pens and shit like that, they don't know what kind of damage they're causing. So that's kind of why I have to step away from any of that kind of shit, because
Yeah, the research has been done. You know, it is a direct correlation to like schizophrenia and all
Yeah.
of that.
now, I mean, people that are utilizing it for anxiety or, any of that, like I used CBD for a while for anxiety and it worked. But
You use it a lot now for pain.
correct. But when I was smoking it, the problem with that was it just tasted too much like weed. So in my mind, I was psyching myself out and saying, you're getting high, even though I wasn't getting high, but just that it brought back that old memory. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to feel that way anymore. So I ended up doing a stint in prison. I was on a rider for, legal shit. Allie, basically tracked down my dad. We'd seen each other, constantly before that, and I went away. She told my dad that she wanted to come and see me. I was like, well, I'm like 30 days to the gate, and it takes 30 days for visitation to be approved. So I was just like, just let her know this is when I get out, and I'll catch up with her then. And so I got out.
At that time, though, I was living a completely different life. I was in a different relationship,
Yeah.
a long-term relationship that I had been for a long time. And I was purely just like, I had seen something somewhere about you. I want to say it was on Facebook from one of our mutual friends, or maybe it was even your sister. I'm not entirely sure. But about you getting ready to get out. And I was like, oh, and that's what kind of sparked all of this.
Yeah.
And I got in touch with, I think it started with your sister, and she didn't respond to me right away. And so then I got into contact with your dad, because I was always downtown Nampa all the time anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what sparked all of that. And we had not talked very much because of the big falling out when you were with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's a story in itself.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to. I have the memory of an elephant, so I could literally break down multiple stories over multiple years, shit that people don't ever remember. I remember all of it. The drug use never really affected that. It did with certain things, but like high point memories, I can spit them out of my head, so I could sit here and talk for hours. But
and he's not over exaggerating. It's true.
I'm really not.
I'm the opposite. My memory is completely shot.
I can't go anywhere in society without starting a conversation with some random person in a frickin' parking lot while I'm taking my groceries to the car. Like, they say something and I elaborate on it, and then it's like, oh man, we're friends. No, like, it gets ridiculous sometimes, but I love it.
I can't take you anywhere.
I love it, but we aren't going to do that on this one.
Well, my favorite one that I like to bring up anyway, is that one when we were in Arizona. I mean, just literally in a place that neither of us were familiar with, and we're in that Walmart, and
the guy starts talking about the lottery.
Yeah,
and his brother-in-law winning the lottery.
No, it wasn't his brother-in-law. It was his brother-in-law's like friend's cousin or some shit. Like, it wasn't even his direct relative, and he like comes up to us out of nowhere.
It was like some down south shit.
Yeah,
like my brother's like, cousin's wife's husband's friend.
Well, he came up to you, and he was just like, hey, I know we don't know each other, but I gotta share this with you. He's just like, my brother-in-law's friend's cousin's nephew just won the lottery. Yeah. Just going on about it. And I'm just like thinking to myself, I'm like, we literally can't go anywhere. Like, why is he coming up to us? There are literally thousands of people here. Why is it you?
But, so anyways, I got out from my rider. I came out with a lot of good intentions. While I was there, I knew that the thing that I needed to do was, create a life. I needed to get away from my old habits and the people that I used to hang around, because I had attempted to quit drugs many a times before that, but was unsuccessful. And the biggest part that I saw it as was the people that I surrounded myself with. Now I realize that family played a part in that too, a large part, but I won't delve into that too much. But I got out and I went to a halfway house, and Allie and I were spending pretty much every waking moment together at that point. And then I got transferred over to another room, which was a 2-man room, and it was with somebody. I intentionally did it because I knew Nate, and I was like, dude, let's get over into that halfway house. Just the two of us in that one room. Biggest fucking mistake I ever made, because the first night we were there, his cousin lived 3 blocks down. I went there, we were drinking, everybody was smoking weed. I didn't smoke weed, but I started drinking, and that was where the whole trip fall started going. You know, the next day I felt like shit. And
how long were you out at that point?
Um,
And this is from your writer.
yes.
How long were you on your writer?
I was inside for 8.5 months.
Okay, and then you got out, and then you had the halfway house, and then how long were you at the halfway house?
I was only at the halfway house for 30 days. It had to have been like 2 weeks into it.
Okay, go ahead, continue. Sorry.
And then that just sparked the whole thing. But like I said, her and I were spending a lot of time together. Some shit went down in her relationship, and she walked away from it. And shortly thereafter, we created our daughter. So the happiness of that was around. But at that time, I was dabbling again. Not in large doses, but I was. Whenever I was with her, I didn't want to get high, but when she went home, you know, that's when, you know, the party started. But, so I continued to dabble and then just went full bore right back into it. I picked up a possession of meth charge, went to jail for 45 days. Her and my dad bonded me out. As soon as I got out that time, I hit the books. Like she pushed me through and got me funded for college. I started going to CWI, majoring in business. And I hit it hard for like a month. And then, of course, you start hanging out with the old people again. You get restless at night, and it's a fucking vicious cycle. But
Well, and you were telling me something the other day, because you were just like, yeah, I remember like when I was hitting hard, and like, you know, it was like really good, and I was really giving it my all, and you said something about it being a long time or like a good while, and to me, I'm just like, it was like not that long, and you're like, well, when you're that deep in addiction, like that is a long time.
well, I went. I want to say it was the end of August when I started using again. So I got. It was over a month that
Yeah.
I hadn't used by choice. You know
Which
what I
I
mean?
know when you're an addict, that is a big deal.
Yeah, it was. Well, for me, it just at the time it didn't seem like a big deal. But as you start looking back, like at the stage that I'm at now, you look back on all your addiction and shit. Like, I get the memories from those posts on Facebook where it's like trying to get myself right. Don't hit me up, any of this kind of shit. And I lasted like 7 days, if that, you know, on that go around. And that was with smoking weed. So it's not like I was completely sober. You know, I was kind of choosing the brother route, if you know what I mean, where I was utilizing weed to not do the hardcore drugs, and it was just fucking, it's so fucking ridiculous and stupid to me at this point. Like, I'm glad to say that I'll never ever go back to that shit again, because I realize just how stupid it is.
Well, I'm glad that you say that, and it makes me happy, but my mom will always say never or forever.
I understand that, and I know that it's always going to be eaten at me. We were watching The Sopranos and seeing Christopher being a junkie heroin addict on that. Like, there's a moment when he's plunging a fucking needle in his arm, and that was the first time in a long time where I was like, fuck, I hate that shit. Like, it actually caught my attention, and I was like, yeah, but it was almost reinforcing how I feel.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh fuck, I wish I could do that again.
Okay, so I do actually want to ask you a serious question, and it might take a second for you to think about it, but like, what? I guess I got to figure out how to pose this question, but you think about it in such a negative, like, odd way now. Like, when you're looking at it, when you're viewing it, you're just like, oh, that's so stupid, blah, blah, blah. How did you get to the point where, like, you even started doing it? Like, I understand that there was a lot that kind of built into that, but...
So you're saying, like, what led up to me actually starting it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, like, that feeling, that concept, because now you'll look at it and you're like, oh my god, that's so fucking stupid.
Okay, so...
And it almost makes you angry. Like, obviously the feeling was different at one time.
Yeah, so... Okay, it started out like this for me. I will touch bases on my drug addiction. I'm not going to go into great details on it, but...
This time.
Yeah, this time. I'm going to have her chop up the other one, and you guys can find out my full story by listening to that. But, so I started smoking weed when I was nine years old, okay? And by age... I actually believe at 10 years old was the first time that I ever took Oxycontin. And it wasn't in like a getting high fashion. What happened was I was in judo. I was very athletic. So I got a back injury at a judo tournament. And there was no ibuprofen or Tylenol. But back then they didn't have the education on the drugs like you do now, where you can type into your fucking phone. Like, my dad had a brick, you know what I mean? Like, that was the phone technology at the time. So
the internet just wasn't readily accessible.
I think that played a huge part in the transition of drug addiction in this country. But I won't delve into that either, because I'm a victim of that bullshit. But at the same time, I don't feel sorry for anybody who's stuck in drug addiction, because I know it's a choice. And you have the ability, no matter if you're out there and you're struggling, you have the ability to change that. You just have to figure out who and what you're going to do it for. Okay? Everyone is capable of dropping that shit. The biggest thing is look at who you surround yourself with. That is the biggest thing. Like, this time, my point of success is the fact that she is who I surround myself with. My kids is who I surround myself with. My brother Jared and his family, we do family fun things. Like, it's never a thought in my mind to take a time out of my day to go and track anybody that I used to run with down, because I'm too busy trying to be husband and father. So, anyways, my mom gave me, this was when Oxycontin first came out. She gave me, she had, I think, Oxycontin 10s, I want to say, or 20s. Well, she thought it was too much, so she broke the little pill in half. And anybody who knows Oxycontin knows that when they first came out, they had a time release coating on them. So once you break that time release, it's an instant hit of opiates. So I was sitting there fucked up at like 9 or 10 years old in the bleachers at a judo tournament, and a physician came over to check on me and make sure that I was doing okay. He said, does he need a painkiller? And my mom said, well, no, I gave him one of mine. And he said, okay, what do you have? And she told him, and he's like, yeah, he's going to be feeling pretty loopy for a little while. Anyways, I didn't put too much cheddar in the game at that point. At this point in my life, I was smoking weed to be an outlaw, but for the most part, I was in multiple sports. I played football, baseball, and judo. So I was in sports year round. So I was just on the go.
I want to push that back just a smidge. There you go.
Like right there?
Yeah, you're just very loud.
Anyways,
you just moved it right back to the same spot.
By 14, I was full-blown addict of opiates. And like I said, my mom had a prescription for OxyContin, and I used to sneak in and, take a handful of her OxyContins, because back then they used to prescribe it freely. She had like, I don't know, 180, or she had a ton of them for a month, because they were prescribing her. She got into a bad car accident, broke her back and neck. So chronic pain management, set up. They gave her the oxys for pain management. But anyways, so by 15, I went to my weed dealer's house with a buddy of mine. We were going to pick up a bag of weed. He didn't have any weed. He had some meth. So that was the first time I ever did meth. That was almost a one and done type situation for years. Because I went to school the next day, everybody knew that I was fucking high on meth, and it was just, it was absolute chaotic. I had been at school multiple times high on opiates, and nobody ever fucking cared. But the one day you show up high on meth, and everybody's like, ugh. But I get it. I understand. Like, I would fucking flip out if some fucking 15-year-old kid was high on meth around me. I'd find his parents and probably beat the shit out of him. But, so this whole time I had run-ins with the law for marijuana. I always got popped with a pipe and a bag of weed. That was the status quo until I became an adult. Then I got hit with one right after my 18th birthday. You put me on misdemeanor probation with that. And I've pretty much been on probation since I was 13 years old. Probation or parole. I'm still on parole right now. So I've been in the system for 20 years. Because it was actually before I met you when I got my first charge ever, and that was that concealed carry at school. I had a pocket knife, but I remember just bouncing back and forth. I was the pill guy forever. Like, I was known as the dude that always had the opiates. When the federal government started getting involved with the pharmaceutical companies, and they started making the pills more tamper-proof. At that time, I was an Opana addict. And the Opanas, they actually finally figured it out with that. So there were two ways that you could get high on Opanas. You could basically crunch it up and dissolve it into something. It was very hard to dissolve. But basically, so you eat it, and you wouldn't get very high off of it. And shit cost a lot of money. Or I knew some very creative individuals that were able to chop these rubberized pills down, melt them, and shoot them, and get high as fuck. So that was the first thing that I ever got high on, was intravenously Opana. And it was out of a necessity thing, as a drug addict. It was to get my fix, that was the option. So, I had an acquaintance of mine shoot me up for the first time, and that was just a downhill path. As soon as I started shooting up, that one's a rocky road, and it just took me downhill as quick as possible. And I believe that once you get to that point, it is one of the hardest things to kick, because you've experienced the ultimate high. You know what I mean? There's nothing that gets higher than that. And the second time I ever shot up was I was at a trap house. One of my good buddies was selling meth. And I went and got Dilaudid because I used to do this. I used to say, okay, I'm getting bad on meth, so I need to get some opiates so I can get off the meth. Then it was, oh, I'm getting bad on opiates, so I need to get some meth to get off the opiates. It was a back and forth vicious cycle on that. So, but I had, they were passing a tray of methamphetamines over where I was cooking up my pill. and a ton had dumped in there, and I didn't want to waste the pill. I just paid a lot of money for it, so I just shot it up. And it's stupid shit like that that makes me think, like, what the fuck is wrong with your way of thinking, dude? Because that shit is so fucking stupid. But that's what led into that. It was a necessity type thing, for getting high, was what led into the shooting. The methamphetamines was a recreational thing, and that was still one of the scariest things, because the reason I liked, the pharmaceutical pills is because you knew exactly what you were getting. I was never really a heroin addict. I was an opiate addict, because even though I was being stupid and doing stupid amounts of the stuff, at least I knew exactly how much of the stuff I was doing. So, but anyway, so I slipped right back into that shortly after we got together and conceived our daughter. And then, like I said, there was that, it was like 40 days. It was more than 40 days. So I had almost 90 days clean with jail time and everything. And just got pulled right back into the shit. And school kind of fell on the wayside. I was getting high on meth at the time, so, I was out at night looking for thrills. And, yeah, it all caught up to me, and I finally, at the end of the road, they couldn't catch me. I was all over the news. I was your ordinary Canyon County outlaw. I was Idaho's most wanted. Just an absolute shit show. And they had attempted to apprehend me on 3 separate occasions and couldn't get it done. So I ended up walking myself into Napa Police Department, and turning myself in and faced the charges. And I tried to get Allie to leave me, but she wouldn't do it. She's always seen my potential, even when I didn't. And
yeah, but I will say, like, when you say you tried to get me to leave you, I also feel like you were trying to, like, find a way out. So you didn't have to take responsibility, and you didn't have to, like, get clean. Like, you could just continue living your shit life that you were going down.
What it was, this is exactly what it was. I felt like an absolute fucking failure as far as a father goes at that point. So, I didn't want to accept the fact that I was a fucking failure as a father, because, when parents are deciding to have children, you're supposed to put all your selfish bullshit to the side, and it's supposed to be for your significant other and your children, and I didn't do that. But when you wouldn't walk away from me, that's when it was like, okay, it's time to button down. I'm done with all this stupid bullshit. And I did my time. I was an honorary student at college. The moment I just remember I was away for my daughter's birth and the last 4 months of her pregnancy. And the morning that my daughter was born was like a spiritual awakening, because I knew that she was in the hospital having my daughter, but I hadn't talked to her, and everything, my whole outlook on life had just like transformed that day. It was Christmas Eve of 2015, and it's pretty insane how much of a 180 happened, but I mean, I'm still living proof today that it's possible to do that. But anyways, I did my stuff and I got out. I hit the ground running. Luckily, I had this badass chick right here, doing everything possible to make sure that everything was lined up when I got out. I didn't have to worry about a roof over the head. I didn't have to worry about a vehicle to get to and from work. She took care of all of it in preparation of me coming home. We moved to a different city. That way there was no chance of running into old people. So she basically checked off all the boxes where the failures happened before and got rid of all of it. But she still remembers very vividly how terrible it was, but I've made a point to just keep our track moving forward. Like I've never had a hiccup or a sidestep from this path that we've chosen to go down together. And I realized that my drug addiction wasn't that big of a deal back when I was constantly busy with multiple sports. When I was constantly busy, I don't ever like seek the time to go and fuck off. So I grabbed that and I held on to it since I got sober, and now I've been sober since October 1st of 2015, and each day is just a continuation of that pathway. And I've got a lot of family that is struggling right now. Like I've got basically almost everybody in my intermediate family that I grew up with is really going through some rough times right now, and I want to reach out and I want to help, but the fact of the matter remains that I know myself more than I should expect to know. And I also know that I let my guard down when I'm around my family. And I am not willing to put myself in harm's way or in a place where I'm not at the peak of my strength, because my family is what's most important to me. So I've we've created a family,
Yes.
and that is at the top of my list. So yes, it sucks seeing them all go through all of this stuff. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? I was there. I know that it is all due to choices that they are making or choices that they do not want to make. So, and I also know that Fergusons are fucking headstrong. We are extremely headstrong, and once we get it in our head on something, you can't break it from us. You can't. So, whatever these siblings of mine have going through their head, there's just no way that they're going to split from that no matter what I say, because I have tried. I have tried to talk to them, but I probably just seem like the fucking hypocrite, because I was there, but
Well, I mean, that's one way of viewing it. I mean, if that's what they choose, like,
yeah, and that's
it can either be that, or it can be the fact that, like, they can choose to see that, hey, you can actually make a difference and you can make a change, and you can't always sit on that crutch of, like, oh, I have to be this way because I'm an addict.
well, and okay. So the biggest thing that I'm noticing lately is, and it's a lesson that we teach our kids on a constant basis, is like accountability is the hugest fucking part to growth. You know what I mean? Like, we are all going to make mistakes and we are all going to fuck up. I still make mistakes, even though it's not a drug addiction mistake. I still make mistakes on a constant basis. Okay? But taking accountability for your mistakes and pushing forward and trying to rectify that situation is the only way you can progress in life. And some of them are not, they aren't ready to make those decisions, and nothing that anybody says is going to make that change. I know that. I was there. My dad tried on multiple occasions to try and, you know, um, show me the right ways to do things. But like I said, Fergusons are headstrong, so we don't like to listen to advice from people who are smarter than us. We just want to tell them where they're wrong and try and discredit their credentials. You know what I mean? But anyway, so we sold our house in Weezer, and we started on a crazy roller coaster that's still going to this day. Um, we wanted to find our dream place, you know what I mean? And we just couldn't find anything here, so it was, you know, Allie came up with a concept, and we just kind of pushed forward with that. But here I go ranting again. So go ahead and take charge, babe.
Well, I mean, as long as you're rambling, I mean, I can't interject a whole lot, but no, I feel like we are skipping through a lot of like big milestones of our actual life, which is the whole point of this, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really want to quite jump into where we're at now. I'd rather back up a little bit and talk a little bit more about how we got here. I mean, yes, your drug addiction was a big part of your life, but it was not a big part of mine.
Correct.
I mean, because all the while you're doing this, I mean, we were together. You were my high school sweetheart. You were my middle school sweetheart. But we ended up breaking up, I want to say it was my junior year of high school. And like you were getting into your addiction pretty bad. And I just was at a point where it's like I didn't feel like, especially, think of teenager mindsets, right? Especially in relationships and teenage boys in general. Like, I just really didn't feel like I had your attention in any way, shape, or form. And then in
Correct,
addition,
you didn't.
right. And in addition, like, you did have an addiction. So, like, it was like I was constantly competing with, like, an inanimate object. And I just was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, I'm literally in high school. I'm in my junior year. Like, I'm going to see what happens. And that was actually really, 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 really hard. Like, that wasn't something I wanted to do, but it was something that my Nana suggested and kind of pushed me to do because I was still so young and had so much to offer the world, I guess. I mean, that's what she told me. And
You know what? That's the first time that you told me that was kind of who pushed you in that direction.
is it?
Yep. So you guys get to learn with me.
Well,
her Nana was a huge part of her life.
yes. And I went over there a lot and spent a lot of time with my grandparents. And after, I mean, this happened later on, but after my poppy died, I spent a lot more time talking with my Nana. But when I was in high school, I mean, my whole life growing up, I was really close to my grandparents. But I would go into town, and I'd spend a lot of time with my grandparents, and because at the time I lived 30 minutes away in a very small town, and so I would drive into Nampa just to spend some time with them. Kiki. Psh. Psh. Sorry, your cat. It's always a freaking cat. That's interrupting one of our shows. But yeah, so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and like, I didn't even really tell her a whole lot of what was going on. She just kind of like knew something was off. And then eventually she got it out of me, and she was like, she's like, you really need to just...
These boys are not worth your time.
Actually, no.
It was true, though. It was true. Like, you were so fucking invested into me. And at that time, I was just so...
Not.
No, it was like I had these lavish dreams of being the outlaw. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up on...
And sometimes I feel like you still do. I mean, you don't live them the same way, but I think you just still, like, mentally, like, associate yourself with, like, being, like, this bad boy, bigger than the law. But, no, I
support law enforcement.
I know that, but, like, in your head, like, in your dreams and in your head, I just feel like you're still in, like, this zone where, like, if I ever wanted to, I could, like...
No, I know that I'm set if the end of the world comes, because I'm not scared to open up that side of me to protect my family. You know what I mean? But, no,
But just remember, when you're protecting your family, that requires you to stay alive. Can you stop swirling that around every time you take a drink? Like, I just... Shh.
I want them to know that stuff's going down in here.
No, I didn't want to do it. It was really, really hard for me. And another guest that we're going to have on in the future is a good friend of mine from high school, Brooke. And she remembers. She remembers when all of this happened, because I literally had to have her delete messages from you because I couldn't read them. Like, I was so torn up about it. Like, I remember not even being able to go to my classes in school because I just was like so emotional, and I was so like, it was like the end of the world. Like, that's what it felt like. And like, it was my choice, and I had to stand by it. And like, I was so close to like going back, and I was like, no, I gotta see this through, and I gotta see what's gonna happen. And it was really hard, and I know that it was really hard for you too.
The world works in mysterious ways.
It does. And I know that it was really hard for you, and that also triggered some bigger addiction problems, as you told me.
Yeah, it snowballed after that.
But at the same time, like, we just had different lives to live. I mean,
aspirations, right?
Yeah.
Like goals and things, yeah, so.
You lost yours. And, which, I mean, I know was triggered by the event, but it wasn't necessarily me. It was, you know, like, you had a choice there. Like, the whole reason why we broke up was because of your addictions. You had a choice to change them or to get deeper into them, and you chose to get deeper.
Yeah, the biggest thing is I always utilize drugs as an emotional crutch.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, that's what everyone does. I don't think I know a single addict that does it for any other reason aside from that.
I do. I know lots of people that just do it because, I mean, well, think about where I was. You know, I do know different ranges of addicts, so.
Okay, but did they start it for that reason?
Yeah. Thrill.
Huh. Well, that seems kind of silly to me. But, no, I mean, like, we all have our ways of managing our emotions, and at the end of the day, like you said, it's a choice on how you decide to
Correct.
move forward in your life or not.
Yep.
Or hold yourself back in other ways. But I ended up doing a lot of really great things in my life. I mean...
Tell them about a little bit of it.
Well, I mean, I was in college forever. I was a career college student. And, I mean, I should have had a doctorate's degree in something, but I still don't. But
if you ever want to go back to school, I fully support you, babe.
No, I know, but I think I burnt myself out.
I know.
Because I went for so freaking long, and then kids
8 years?
and 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I ended up, I mean, I really dodged a bullet with one of my boyfriends, and thank goodness. I'm not going to name names.
Let's go into that.
No.
No, we don't need to name names or any of that, but you went through your own little cycle that similar to what I struggled with. So, I think that's important to know too, because you went down that rabbit hole.
Which rabbit hole are you referring to? The one where I just, like, partied and experimented a lot?
Well, experimented, yeah, I guess because it's not a prolonged addiction. Yeah, it would be experimenting, but...
I mean, I did... I have a hard time associating myself with addictions. The only thing I can honestly say that I've ever been addicted to is cigarettes, which, I mean, you saw how easily I'm able to kick those. I'll just decide I'm done, and then
she's one of the very few individuals that things that are supposed to be highly addictive. Now, pause the brakes, because this woman is a coffee addict. Like you wouldn't believe.
I'm 100% a caffeine addict.
She will literally stand at the door and for an hour and wake me up so I will go make her coffee. And I'm happy to do it.
Well,
but it just
okay.
makes me laugh.
I will make my own coffee, but I will be mad at you for
Yeah,
it.
she'll be pissed for about 48 hours until I have 2 consecutive days of getting up and making her coffee for her.
Okay, but let's break that down. Why am I like that? Oh, it's because I'm the one who never gets to sleep. So I'm okay, I'm going to interrupt your fucking dream sleep.
Yeah.
So you can make me some coffee so I can at least function for the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I am severely addicted to caffeine. Primarily coffee. That is my choice. But no, I did dabble. I dabbled in ecstasy and some other things.
Go. You can lay on your bed if you want, but don't be crawling up there.
He's talking to the cat. He's talking to the cat. For those of you who are listening, our cat, there's always a damn cat that's messing with the podcast episodes.
Well, this one's a particular pain in the ass, but we got her for the girls, but she became my cat. And she's got a little bed next to my side of the bed, but she does this thing where late at night she wants to go over and bother Allie. And right now it's like, they don't understand that this is important stuff going on. She's just pissed off that I won't let her get up on top of the cupboard. So, But
yeah, so I dabbled a little bit and experimented with my life. I had a boyfriend at the time, and I mean, he was kind of his own piece of work.
He's something else.
I remember we were at this. He had a big party. There was always parties at his house that he was living at. He had a couple other roommates at the time. And always big parties. There was always lots of people there. Like, that was the party spot. And I remember this particular night, I was pregnant. And we obviously decided not to party. And yeah, no, I woke up to the house being raided, and that was interesting. That was a fun time. Not really.
Those are always good times.
I mean, because I was half asleep when he came in. He's like, "Allie, you need to get up. Allie, you need to get up. We gotta go. And I'm like, "Okay, let me get my purse and my stuff." And he's like, "No, we gotta go." And so then I opened the door. And then I realized, like, oh shit, like something's happening because the house is just trashed. I mean, trash. And then there's like blood everywhere. There's puke everywhere. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And there's no one in there. And like couches are flipped over and it was like absolute chaos. And I go out front, like, because I could feel the cool breeze coming from the... You're so obnoxious, babe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just push it away from you. He's hitting the microphone because he can't sit still. But, no, I felt the cool breeze of the front door being left open. And I look over and, like, everybody that was at this party is on, like, either on their stomach on the ground with their hands behind their back, or they're on their knees with their hands behind their head. And everybody's in zip ties. And I'm talking, there was like a good portion of people. And I'm just like, oh my God, what's happening? And mind you, I did actually grab my purse and all my stuff. And at this time, like, this is early 2000s. And we liked our big, huge duffel bag purses that we could fit everything in. So I had one of those. And so I'm walking outside. And, of course, they're like, drop your stuff, put your hands behind your head. But I'm like, oh my God.
I didn't do anything. I just woke up.
No, that is what I said. I did say that. And it was the truth. But of course they didn't care. Because everyone probably says that. Anyway, I just remember being freaked out. I didn't actually know I was pregnant at this time. I just knew that I felt like shit, which is why I didn't want to party. And, they're thrashing me around and throwing me on the ground. And, it was, like, super intense. And it was chaotic and scary and but hilarious at the same time thinking back, because I remember when I was in the back of the cop car, you know, they start asking me all these questions about myself, like where do I live, and, you know, personal information, and they're like, were you drinking and partying and all this stuff? And I was like, honestly, like, I can say, like, I was not. Like, I didn't do anything. I was just sleeping over. Like, this is my boyfriend's house, and he's one of the people that lives here, and he also didn't do anything. Like, we were very boring, and, anyway, and then somehow I started rambling like you do. And I was like, and I just filled out my FAFSA, and I'm going to college, and I'm like, freaking out, and I'm crying. And then they're like, okay, yep, thank you. You know, like, once I'm, like, at the point of where I'm, like, freaking out, and I'm crying, and I'm, like, just giving them...
They're like, yeah,
they're like,
we're
okay,
going to shut this door, and we're going to talk to some more interesting people.
Yeah, we're going to... Interesting. We're going to talk to, you know, some people who actually have some information to give us. And anyway, so, and there's a point to the story, I promise. So we get down to the station, and of course they're like, did you see any of these people? And they have the whole lineup, and they're like wanting me to identify people. And I honestly had nothing to give them because I didn't see anybody. I was asleep. And anyway, so obviously nothing came from me. And that's pretty much when that relationship went to hell, because my boyfriend, I found this out later, but he convinced all of his roommates that I ratted everybody out, which, again, if they use their brain, okay, how could I rat somebody out if I didn't even fucking know what was going on? I was asleep. I was not even participating. But anyway, he convinced everybody that I did this, so I wasn't allowed back over there. And like a week later, my boyfriend decides he needs to get the hell out of Dodge. It all makes sense now, but at the time it didn't make any sense. And
Dun, dun, dun.
yeah. So I end up having like this really traumatic miscarriage, and I have to have surgery. It was a very not good situation, but I did dodge a bullet because...
Right after that bullet was dodged, she came to see me.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Right after I dodged that bullet, okay, so I move him to a different state. I help him move to a different state.
Mm-hmm.
And then he literally ghosted me after that. Like, he just fell off the face of the planet. And I was devastated. But it all worked out for the best, because now I know all of this stuff, because my sister actually stayed in contact with all of the roommates. And so I know what was said about me, which was a lot. So I'm glad that I'm not with someone who was talking so much shit about me and literally using me as the fall and then running away.
Well, just so it's clear, yeah, we aren't gonna name drop, but that dude is weak as fuck.
Oh yeah, for
like,
sure.
he is such a fucking pansy. And it just blew me away that you even dated him. But
oh, I know. Well, and Ashley and I were talking about that. I'm like, he wasn't even my type.
no,
like
not only
she
your
had to
type.
convince me. I was like, is he cute? Like, am I gonna like him? And she's like, oh yeah, he's cute. You'll like him. And I'm just like, will I?
It wasn't even a type thing. Like, his fucking personality, he is an absolute fucking joke. You got to understand that I've dealt with that dude on a few different occasions because I was in the weed business.
Right.
You know, so he was just a duck for sure. And it just blew me away because I heard all of this stuff from you, you know, post, you know, tragedy and all of that stuff. So but
anyway, there is a purpose for this. Because after the dust had settled a little bit, you know, I went to my good friend, which was you, and we had not we didn't go through our big falling out at this point. We were still just really good friends. And I sat and I talked with you, and I had went through a lot of loss at that time.
Yeah.
I lost my puppy, my dog. I lost
Poppy.
my poppy, my grandfather, who I was incredibly close to, and I still get upset about it. And then I lost a child through a miscarriage, all within 3 months, and it was a lot, and it was my first real like. I don't want to say mental breakdown, because I definitely had those before that, but it was just a big pivotal moment in my life where I just felt like, what the hell am I supposed to do with all this? And I came and I hung out with you, and we had smoked, and which I didn't ever really do a whole lot of, because it makes me super like anxious. And funny fact, like anytime I smoke too much, I always feel like I'm peeing my pants. I don't actually pee my pants, but I always feel like I am, which makes me more anxious.
Oh my God! Do you remember when you were? This was this was when Rap God came out,
Oh my
and
God.
you smoked to deal with the nausea, and oh my God, you were like, because you were doing film at that time, and you were like, oh my God, this is a fucking masterpiece. We sat in my car just watching this Rap God video because she hadn't heard it yet. And that video, you guys, all you youngsters, like when that video came out, that was like top notch. Like you didn't get rap videos like that. Like that was top notch shit. But anyway, so yeah, you came over after that, and I do remember giving you a big hug and just telling you that I'm so sorry and everything's gonna be all right. But
Are you trying to fall asleep right now?
no,
Why are your eyes closed?
because I'm trying to hold back a burp. Like these people want to hear me burp like a big old
Shaylin did it in
screwdriver.
the last episode.
I know. She's like, excuse me.
That was so funny.
That's my okay. So, for anybody who is listening, who has listened to multiple of these, like Shaylin is the person that I consider like my best friend. Allie, of course, is my absolute best friend, but through all of the bullshit that I went through, Shaylin was the only person that was there for me other than Allie. Like, Allie was there for me all the time, but it was really crazy because I hit RDU and I've already been talking to Allie and all of this stuff, and bam, I get a message in, and it's Shaylin, and she's the one that just continuously contacted me and put money on my books and did all kinds of things. But it's more than that. Like, we were always, is it platonic?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've always been just platonic friends. Like, we actually became friends because my best friend Mike married Shaylin, but I've known Shaylin since we were just fucking tots, since little kids making stupid decisions.
Yeah, her episode's really good. Stop shaking.
But yeah, it was anyways, I kind of got off track because that screwdriver hit me, but
Yeah, we're drinking. That we didn't really need to.
no, but you know what? It sounded like a good idea. This is Drunk History 2.0.
No, I'm not actually drunk. But
Well, it's actually just, it's
It's
drunk
gone.
history.
I mean, it kind of is.
Not national history. This is our history.
Yeah. Well, no, I had come over and we were talking and I was telling you what was going on and I was really emotional about it, and like a little bit prior to that, I remember, or no, never mind. It was after that. I got my time frame mixed up.
You're talking about what's her face?
Yeah. So, anyway, we were just talking and I was out there really late, and, you know, I had all this stuff happen and I was still dealing with, like, because I had to have surgery to actually, like, remove my miscarriage. And so, like, I was still recovering from that. Like, it was all still new and fresh. And I was talking with you, and And it had gotten really late, and I lived 30 minutes away, and you're just like, hey, just stay the night over here. And so I did. And I stayed the night. Nothing happened. I just stayed the night and slept, and your girlfriend was told by your sister that more than that happened, and that caused a whole big huge rift, and we ended up like not talking because, you know, your girlfriend didn't want us to talk and whatever. And so when I came over, like when my grandfather died, because I got that mixed up, that hadn't happened quite yet, that happened a month later. And when he died, I had come over to talk to you about that. You totally blew me off. You blew me off, and I was super upset about it. And, like, I even remember, like, I was just like, hey, like, is Justin here, you know? And then they're like, oh, well, he and his girlfriend are downstairs or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, can you just let him know that I'm here or whatever? And then both of you guys came out, and, like, you were such a douchebag. You were being such an asshole. And, like, you even made a comment that you just got done fucking.
I was.
Yeah, you made a comment that you just got done fucking your girlfriend downstairs. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I really don't care. I came here to talk to you because I'm fucked up. And needless to say, I didn't end up talking to you that day. I ended up just leaving, but, yeah, no, that caused a big, huge rift. And then I remember seeing you again later after, like, I ended up getting into a new relationship, and I was with him for, like, 4 years.
It was, no.
I wasn't with him yet.
No, somewhere in there it got mixed up because, okay, I know exactly what happened, because when we were going over to Cameron's and hanging out, and we went to Alex and Gina's, wedding, party, that was when, like, me and that girl were together, but we weren't like anything serious. So you and I were hanging out, you know, we were hanging out a ton. And because I remember sitting at Alex and Gina's, we went to that party together. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting there, and you started talking about said dude. And I was like, you know, I remember him from years back, like, he doesn't seem like a bad dude. Maybe you should just try, you know, see where it goes. And you ended up getting with him, and you guys spent 4 years together. But
you know what's kind of funny about that, though, is had you said anything other than, like, yeah, go for it, I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah,
because I was
know.
Contemplating it so hard. And
well, you were on the fence with me too, but I wasn't.
Well, I was on the fence with you, but at the same time, like, I had just heard some other information from someone else that, like, you guys were trying to have a baby or some shit. Like, she had just gotten off of birth control or something, and I was like, what the fuck? I was so concerned about that. But then I remember I, like, briefly brought it up to you, and you're like, why do you care? You're not my girlfriend. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? You're right. I'm not. So I'm not going to worry about it. And that's when I started looking elsewhere not looking. I actually wasn't looking for anybody, but I was more open.
Well, that dude had been in our lives forever at that point. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
yeah, I partied with him all the time, and everybody hated his personality because he would always, like, try and get a rise out of people, and at that time, like, I kind of liked that because I was just like, it's not that I liked it, it was just something that I understood, and I wasn't one of those people who he could get a rise out of. And so, like, it was almost like this weird attraction in that way. It was a very weird start to a relationship, and I honestly don't know how it lasted so long. I mean, he was a really good friend, but that's pretty much all it was.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there anymore, and I keep trying to take a drink.
The water's right there. But anyways, yeah, so that was the same individual that she was in a relationship with when I got out from my rider. And by that point, they had their own issues going on. And I was a complete 180 image of what I was previously, so At least that's what I was portraying. But we've got a ton of history. Like I said, we've got 20 years. I don't know anybody that's 33 years old or 32 years old that has 20 years with their significant other. So, just think about it. When we turn 70, we will have known each other for 63, no, 53 years? No, that's way off. 57 years. Jesus, my math is off. I mean, that was a thick drink. You know, what can I say?
It was a thick
But, so we'll have our 40th, like, knowing each other anniversary
You know, it does complicate things, though.
when we're 50.
Because we've never
53.
really known when our anniversary is, other than our marriage. That's the only actual anniversary that we know.
Well, that's because, okay, so honestly, I could tell you exactly what our anniversary is, but you weren't in it to win it at that point. Like, you had just gotten out of the relationship with the other dude. You were carrying our child, but you weren't, like, ready to commit, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, especially because, like, you had already started,
Yeah, back into my shit. Yeah, for
and
sure.
I was like,
I don't blame you for
do
it,
I want
but
to raise a baby with this dude?
I get it 100%, but I know the exact date. Like, I'm good with dates. Like, I'm the one that remembered that we got together the first time ever in October. It was the second month of school. That's what I remember of it. Because I met Landon at the beginning of the school year, 8th grade year. So, but yeah. So we, I don't know where we're at with time, but we,
Well, why did the camera just go black and white?
it's not black and white, it's in sleep mode.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think the camera lost color. I sure hope not. But it goes into that dim mode for brightness control type stuff. But anyway, so you guys have kind of heard a little bit of the backstories, but this last year has been a roller coaster. We sold the house. It was Allie's idea.
Well, when I first pitched you the idea, I was just like, hey. I was like, what if we sell everything and just go travel? You're like...
And I was like, I ain't going to be a band of rolling fucking gypsies. Like, I need roots, like my job. Like, you know, what are we doing there? I'm a finished carpenter by trade, but I do all construction. We own our own company. I was like, dude, I've got to work, you know, and that was that mind frame that I put myself in to try and keep myself on the straight and narrow is like, I have to be working, like I have to be providing, I have to, you know, be useful because, you know, if I'm just not going to be another cog in the wheel, you know. So I was like, no, fuck that. We'll fucking rent a place for a year until the market takes a shit. And then the closer we got to it, it was like this is what Allie like really, really wants. And she has done everything for me. And I started like a lot of it was like prerequisites on the family. You know what I mean? Mine was a big part of like my family living here. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm not going to just leave them. And then, well, the circle that we started talking about earlier, it became easier and easier to be like, okay, I'm gone. But
yeah, but I think really what it comes down to is not so much about like trying to escape them. It was more like we got to live our own damn lives.
Yeah, making a point of that. Yes.
And it has nothing to do with. I think that's really the driving force here. Is it has nothing to do with them. Has everything to do with us.
Correct, and that was that little lint string that I had to snap in my head, because like I was raised family over everything, and the problem with that kind of like that is a true statement, and I still feel it to this day. Okay. But when you start creating a family, that is your family. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That becomes number one family. And then the family you grew up with is number two family. So it is what's for the best for you and I, not for what the best is for them. Because all of them are fucking adults. All of them can make their own choices. And like I said earlier, nothing I say is going to change how they make their decisions. So it was that kind of mental break that I had to go through for me to be like, you know what? This does sound like a fucking blast. We want our kids to experience the stuff that we dreamed about.
Right.
So we sold the house. We bought a Keystone Fusion, which you see us lavishly laxing in right now.
Yes.
We've
Our
created
beautiful sheet drape.
We've created it to be home. Yeah, this patio flips down into an outside porch that you can kick it on during the spring and drink your coffee and kind of wake up in the morning. It's really cool. But we've done our own stuff to this. Like the master is actually originally in the front, but we converted that into the girls' bedroom and we took this one. So this is our residential king. And we've kind of just like added things here and there to make it feel more home. But it was only like 2 weeks in, and it had that smell. It had the feeling like this became home very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I do strongly believe in the fact that like you can make anything home. You can
Yeah.
make anything home if you have the right people with you. You have the right mindset and emotional framework. You can make anything home. It's just it has to have all the other factors into it too. So it's not so much we needed some big huge fancy house, which I mean we could have gotten, but then we would have just been in like, I mean, especially with the market and how it went crazy.
It was a seller's market.
It would have, yeah, we would have just been screwing ourselves. And that was kind of the main point that like changed your mind. Wasn't so much like what I wanted. It was more like, you're like, okay, we can actually make some money out of the house. And, you know, I won't have to work as hard for a little while, and we can actually do some things that we want to do. And we did. We made the most of it because we ended up traveling, you know, all the way, well, not all the way through the country, but we started traveling some of the country, and
we hit Oregon, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, and then made our way back up through New Mexico, Utah, then back to Idaho. So we made a pretty
we
large
went through
trek.
Colorado a little bit too.
Yeah, well, I mean, not really. Dove Creek isn't really Colorado. That's just a highway.
We just hung out there for a hot second. But,
Yeah.
well, remember, we saw that mama dog there. We gave her some water.
Yeah, we did. No, that was Utah.
Was it?
That's how short we were in Colorado. Was where it was all green and rolling hills. That was Colorado, and then as soon as it hit desert again, that's Utah.
Yeah, I wanted to say we were still there. We went to that that gas station or whatever. Not that it really matters, but
it was a blast, and
then we would have. Oh gosh, getting aggressive here. We would have stayed out longer, and we would have traveled more, and we probably would have like made it to our ultimate destination, which was Tennessee, which we never actually made it to. But then your dad ended up having a heart attack.
Yeah, it was a cardiac arrest.
Cardiac
He
arrest.
corrects me on it all the time. That's the only reason I correct it.
But he
Big difference between a heart
actually-
attack and a cardiac arrest. He was dead for, I don't know, 3 minutes, something like that. He was dead for a period of time. My brother, and see, that's kind of where I know that with one particular brother, it's very difficult for us to, for anybody in the family to kind of hold him accountable, you know, because he's always there for everybody. But the biggest thing is just like, I don't know, the reason why I'm so held off on judgment at all is because I don't know where I would be if I had just recently went through the thing that he went through. Like, my brother had to resuscitate my dad until the paramedics arrived there. And my brother's the one that kept my dad alive.
And I'll always have respect for him for doing that. But,
Yeah.
But you've just made a good point. Like, if you want to compare it to something, like, you can go back to when I was pretty much dying.
Yeah, no, that is, no, 100%, 100%. But it's like,
And the only reason why that thought of going back to your addictions didn't cross your mind is because of your children.
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. You see why I don't have the same sympathies about those things?
I understand, but you got a very straightforward way of looking at it, and I've got a, when it comes to your family, you have compassions for things that you probably shouldn't have compassions for. You know what I mean? And I can't explain it, but I have distanced myself. Okay. I have made it very clear that I don't tolerate any of that kind of stuff. So at the same time, I just don't want to be too harsh on him. It's been the closest person that I've had in my life for the longest period.
I just want to throw out there that I'm not making those choices for you. You're making those choices on your own because I don't want to have the resentment from people.
Correctly. Yeah. It's not, listen, it's, just so y'all know, I am my own man. The difference that I have made in my life is I step back and I look at the whole picture before I get emotionally attached or emotionally involved in anything, because I need to make sure that whatever I am involving myself in, it is not going to take precedence over my children, my wife, my family, my fucking dog for that matter. This is my family. So this is my top priority. And it doesn't mean that I just don't care. It just means that I don't really have the emotional capacity to deal with all the extra drama, because we've got it pretty fucking good, but we've got drama our own. My daughter just had her appendix removed. Like, we were just up at the hospital fucking terrified. So we've got our own things going on in our own lives, and my heart bleeds for people that are out there struggling. But the truth of the matter is I've been there, I've done that. You have to make that personal choice. And when you don't make that personal choice, I lose faith, I lose respect, I lose, and in turn, they lose my attention, because I don't have the attention span to deal with that. And even to this day, usually her and I's arguments usually come from the fact that I'm so fucking bullheaded and stubborn that when I make a decision, I make a decision. And it's not like I take into consideration everybody's fucking thoughts and opinions on it, because I make those decisions in my own head.
And on one hand, it's really, it's like a breath of fresh air, because you're very, like, sure of yourself and what you decide, and you just, like, stick with it. And, like, I have a lot of envy and, not envy, but I have a lot of respect for that, because I have felt like my whole life I have not been that way. Like, I've always second guessed and questioned and overanalyzed every move I make.
Yeah.
And I mean, I rarely make a decision 100% for myself.
You never do.
It's always like, what about my kids? What about you?
Correct.
What about this? I got to talk to Justin first. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to think about this. Oh, but what if this happens? It's...
And that's part of the opposites of us.
Analysis paralysis.
Yes, it's part of the opposites of us, which is why we make a good team, because I usually don't think too much about something. I drive forward, because I know that if I take a step back, I'll second guess myself. And if I made the decision in the first place, being in the right head that I'm in now, it's like, okay, I know that this isn't a terrible decision. It's probably not the correct decision, but I know that I've already analyzed it in my head, and I've weighed the pros and cons, and this is what I'm pushing forward with. So
I've got to pee so bad.
I was going to say, let's go ahead and take a break.
All right, we're back. And let's talk a little bit more about What are you doing?
I'm trying to look pretty for the camera.
Oh, well, I mean, in case you're just listening and you aren't watching the video form, because I usually upload those a few days later. In case you're just listening, like, we are literally on our bed in our pillows, our blankets, I mean, our jammies, the whole 9 yards. There's nothing professional about this.
This is the raw truth of it. Is this is who we are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you may get some people that like do professional interviews. Like, I am a huge Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson fan.
Yeah, they're great.
Ben Shapiro. I listen to a lot of different podcasts, but this one, my beautiful partner was looking for something a little bit more real, a little bit more raw, and getting into more of the personal situations and stuff like that than some of these other places go. Usually you hear about big topics and certain things like that, but this is more of a one-on-one with everyday people, you know. And I'm just an ordinary fucking person. Like, I'm not. In my head, I'm Superman, you know, because of my trials and tribulations that I've overcome. But to any average individual, you know, I'm just another dude, you know, and but you're not.
What do you mean?
You're pretty fucking extraordinary. When we started this venture, you got to understand that I'm a show me the money type of person. So, you know, I was going to work, working 10, 12 hours a day, busting my ass and getting my paycheck, you know. And granted, it wasn't like a 9 to 5, you know, working at the counter type individual. I was making good money, but I was busting my ass for that money. So
And you were gone all the time.
yeah, in my head, you know, you had to work for it. And I saw all these people, and I know that they're making, you know, I'm listening to Joe Rogan's because I was driving from Weezer to Boise. So I had, at that time, a little over an hour, hour and a half commute each way. So podcasts are great to listen to. But back to what I was talking about is she has these visions of like where we can be. And this woman has opened up my mind and made me into the man that I am today, because she has unlocked my true potential, my true reason for being. And it took me forever to finally just batten down the hatches and follow her into the fucking battle.
Or the unknown, rather.
Yeah, the unknown. But now that we're here, it's like, you know, we aren't loaded, you know what I mean? And we live in a fifth wheel, you know, but
By choice.
But the truth of the matter is I've never been happier. And if you think about all of the things that you guys have kind of heard us touch on with my family and the inner going ons of things that we've got going on a constant day-to-day basis, like, this is something that would drive somebody to despair. But here we are being driven forward by her ambition, and I've never been happier in my entire life. You know, it's...
Well, I mean, I think this is a really good time. Like, I mean, that's the unorthodox part of Unorthodox Gypsy, is just my way of seeing the world and wanting to live. It's not, I've never, for as long as I've known myself, which is, that sounds really stupid when I say that.
Well, I would say you've known yourself for a pretty long time.
For as long as I can remember, is what I meant to say. For as long as I can remember, I've never wanted to be ordinary. I've never wanted to be normal. I've always strived for, like, really, like, almost unattainable aspirations.
Yeah.
And I have really high standards for myself and everybody else. and I know that.
Yep.
But it's only because I know what's possible.
Yes.
And
It took me a long time to understand that that's what it was with you. You know what I mean? It took me a long time to realize that you're able to see potential in things that nobody else actually sees. And your ideas are so vivid and real. And that's what going back to what I said, it took me so long to just follow you into battle, but would die on a sword for you.
yeah, but you'll live for me too, and I feel like that's just as important.
Yes.
Um, I I don't know, and to me, they don't seem like they're overly far fetched. Like I know that they are for everybody else, but I'm just like, oh yeah, let's go make a movie, or let's go travel the world.
Yeah.
You know, like let's go do this. Like it's like, hey, let's go catch a movie tomorrow.
My big thing is like saturation, and I think that's why I didn't have faith in it. Is because like we jumped on the kick like late. You know what I mean? Um, we were already very involved in watching all these people. You know, I watched Joe Rogan's transition from YouTube to Spotify. It was a huge thing. Became one of the number one podcasts. And this is just so you guys know, this is one tiny aspect of her entire big picture. You know what I mean? Like you guys are, and the biggest part is we we together are not looking to be famous. We aren't looking to be loaded. We have unlocked a very, very sacred box very, very early in life. And with her knowledge and drive, we have understood that happiness and true love is the unattainable to everyday people. So, you know, we jumped into this fifth wheel and we just hit the fucking road. Um, we did something at the turn of our 30s that people wait until they're retired to do. And when you're fucking old and you're retired, how fun is it crawling up the fucking archway at Moab, you know, in 104 degrees? Like, you ain't doing it. You know what I mean? So, with her drive, we've unlocked something that you know, people wait an entire lifetime. And then when they're on their deathbed because they waited so long, you know, my dad was pretty,
Naysayer.
yeah, he was pretty negative of the entire concept. But as he started receiving, you know, thousands of pictures of all of these places that we went, he just started, like, in retrospect, he's like, you know, I wish I would have taken the time. And that's the problem with humans, is we get into this bustle. And I was knee deep, elbow deep in it for years. And we get into this bustle and we start to become machines. Okay, we create machines, but we become these machines where it's always, okay, provide, sleep, eat, shower, provide, sleep, eat, shower. And you just get into this mundane circle. And it took a brilliant mind like this to expand what I saw, because that was the household I grew up in. My dad had 5 kids. He had to bust his ass his entire life to provide for his family. So that's what I saw, and I love, adore, and respect my father. And so that's what, in my mind, okay, that's what I had to do.
Well, and you know, I do got to interject and say, like, that's all it really was prior to very recently. Like,
Yes.
that was pretty much the only way.
I was following the blueprint that my father set in stone for me.
I mean, because my both my parents are like career people. Like, they had their careers, and that's, I mean, that they retired from them, you know,
Yep.
all of it. And I mean, even after retirement, my mom is still working because she can't sit still, and and she wants to keep working.
Yep.
It's like a fulfillment, and I mean, and imagine, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like I said, like, I can respect and appreciate people who are that way, but I've always known that that's just not who I am.
Yeah. Yep. And that's it. Okay, so going back a little bit, when I decided to change my life, I had to find a blueprint that worked. So I looked at, like, my brother Jared. He never walked in my realm, but he's got 5 kids, and he's doing it. You know, he's successful. He's happy. Um, you know, and so I started looking at all the blueprints of, because that is the way that my brain works. I have to mechanically see everything and break it down to a molecular level and figure out how it works and why it gets there. So I started following in those blueprints, and we did good. Like, we were keeping our heads above water, you know, but then it came to the point where it was like, this woman, my children, and myself included, deserve more than just making it by. You know what I mean? So it took her breaking me of that kind of concept in my head. And this has been a wild ride that we've been on so far.
What we haven't mentioned is that before you got out of prison, we were expecting another baby. Because you were on work release and, well, you know, things happen.
Yeah.
But, so...
Big no-no, by the way, but I mean, whatever, guys. You guys were taking 50% of my pay. I really don't give a shit. Yeah. There was a big transformation. That was... Addie took the brunt of all of it, you know. And...
Yeah, because she was
she's still
4.
kicking.
She turned 4, like, the day after you got out. And then...
30 days later, exactly 30 days later, she had a little sister.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
dad comes home. He's sleeping in the bed where Addie was sleeping for, you know, her whole life up until that point. And then all of a sudden now there's a baby that's got all the attention. So, you know, ads, if you listen to this stuff when you get older, I just want you to know how absolutely amazing you are. And that they broke the mold when they made you. And you've been the hugest blessing for our family that we could have ever even imagined. The things that you've had to struggle and go through, the things that you've triumphed and overcame, I couldn't have asked for a better daughter. You have completely transformed who I am. So, all your daddy's successes, all your mommy's successes, everything that we do from 2015 out are all because of you. So.
Very true.
Sorry, fellas, but that one right there was for my little girl. But anyways, yeah, we're going to keep pushing forward, though. I foresee some pretty badass shit going on over the next 5 years. Everything, I mean, she doesn't boast. She's got 2 books that are being published by Penguin Books for children. We started making money from Facebook, and that's when it kind of opened my eyes. Like, are you kidding me? We had a video when we were in Humble, I think it was Humble County Zoo, down in, it was right around Eureka. We had a video that like went viral. I think it almost hit 1 million views, and that stuff is just unheard of. Like, I remember it just doing this transfer, and she's sending me daily texts like, we're up 50,000 views, and I was like, what? Like, within a few days, it was bigger than our entire valley combined, and I was like, my goodness, that is insane.
And that's, yeah, that was on our rolling with the Fergs page. That was kind of following our travels and stuff. And we started that just for our family so that they could follow what we were doing, because everyone's like, oh, I want to see your adventures. And I was like, well, I'm not going to send a picture to like 50 people every single time we do
Yeah.
something. And so that's why we started those. And yeah, like I ended up finding that video like way later. Like it was way past
Yeah.
that point in time. Like we were already in a completely different spot.
Well, and that was the difference between Instagram and Facebook too, is because we started on Instagram and we were like, we aren't gonna really do the Facebook, like not the Facebook. We're gonna go Instagram with all of this. And then all of a sudden our first viral video is off of Facebook. And it's like, it's probably not viral like, Tom McDonald or some of these other people, but I mean, when your average Joes go to the zoo and see some animals humping and the kids are asking, what are they doing? And you're like, oh, they're just playing.
Well, crap.
If that video hits 800,000 views, like that's a big deal. And once again, that was all on her vision of what we could do. We were kind of trying to branch off and see ways that we could make money while we were on the road, because we didn't want it to end. But then that cardiac arrest happened with my dad, and
I just gotta clarify, Penguin Books is not publishing my books.
Oh.
So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Okay, so she's got a couple of books that are being published. Okay.
I just don't want anyone getting me for lies, because that's
it's not a small matter though. I mean, it's just all of this stuff kind of blew up, and it's just because she's found her rhythm, she's found her driving force, and it's kind of what is keeping me alive these days. I have a hard time focusing on that. Like I'm always trying to further my education and things that interest me, but I've had to take a step back, and I'm attempting to put more focus into her creative ideas, because I'm seeing the success in them now. So it's not just a pipe dream anymore. It's fucking real deal right in front of us.
One thing that I do know is you're probably gonna be on more shows, and we'll probably have more things that we want to add on.
Well, and also, if you guys are interacting with this, like she said, like I am pretty much on the scenes on all of these. There will be there will be, multiple in the future that we have conversations with other guests that have awesome stories too. But if you guys want to know any more about anything, then just, look us up. Rolling with the Fergs is our Facebook. It's also on Instagram.
And that's more like our family,
But I don't know, do you have DMs and stuff on like Spreaker and Spotify, any of that? I don't think you do on the streaming thing. So that's why I was saying, if you guys have questions or you want to interact, then go ahead and get it.
I have a Facebook page though.
Well, yeah. So
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, just DM over to UG, Unorthodox Gypsy, on Facebook, and there's a lot more that my love has to offer. So just stay tuned. It's this is a wild ride, and I do actually have one more thing to add. She says that it's a gift of mine. I don't know if it's so much a gift, but I do gotta say, for your average listener, when you start listening to somebody and you watch them rise in ranks and you start to see them like blow up and like get recognition and stuff like that, there's a certain feeling you get. And I only say that because I have literally been the first one to start listening to artists before they blow up And that feeling of like when you hear somebody bumping that and you're like, oh, have you listened to this or have you checked this out? And they're like, no, what's that? And it's like, well, that was his stuff before everybody knew him. It's kind of a cool feeling. And you people involved right now are the people who are going to be able to say that about this show and this woman, 5-10 years down the road. So
You really believe that?
I I do. And I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. But it's just because it's something that piques my interest, and it just seems like everything that piques my interest ends up fucking blowing up. For some reason. It's probably just how the algorithm works. Maybe I'm one of the few individuals in the mix that, like, starts that trend. Whatever I can't explain it, but
No, you've always had a pretty good ear for popularity and what's up and coming.
well, and it's funny because you started the podcast, but that wasn't even I wasn't even sharing with you all the time about how much I listened to podcasts. Like, you knew that I listened to podcasts, but like this one has stuff to offer that the other ones don't. I go to Jordan Peterson for psychology, okay, and learning how people's minds work and certain topics of the day. I go to Joe Rogan's for comedy and for, he always has extremely. Jordan Peterson and him are great friends. So I always love the Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. I love Protect Our Parks. That stuff is absolutely hilarious. I was, like I said, I watched Joe transition from YouTube over to Spotify. So when I look at podcasts, I like to hear things that pique my interest, and also usually the stuff that gets most of my views is things that I relate to, and that's what I think this one is relatable. And that's a very, very driving force that you've used on the entire thing. So just stick with it, baby.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I planned on it.
And I'll ride your coattails to the end.
Well, I didn't really format the show like I format other shows.
Yeah, and we talked about it before, but this is a kind of a peek into. This isn't much different than what we sit and talk about at night. So
Yeah, we usually have really good conversations at night in the dark when we're getting ready to fall asleep, and then we end up staying awake for a couple of hours just talking about stuff.
well, or I fall asleep and then she's like, "Are you fucking sleeping? Are you serious?" So
No, I'm not sleeping.
no, I'm not. But no, this is all of my time away. When we would talk on the phone at night, I would always say that I just look forward to being able to lay and talk with you in the dark, because we've done that since a long time ago. It's been our thing. So we aren't in the dark, but a lot of the things that we covered tonight, some of it was common knowledge that we don't usually talk about, but, future and things that we've done so far, our accolades, that kind of stuff, that is stuff that we talk about. So you guys got a glimpse into Alexandria's day to day, and the next guest is also going to be somebody that knows my wife very, very well. Not as well as me, but
The next guest?
yeah. Oh, no. Well, okay. It'll be a couple guests down the way, but the next guest is actually going to be pretty awesome. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
That's going to be a wild little trip. So come back and listen to that one. That one's going to be just so you guys know, I am so into podcasts. I listen to every single one of her podcasts. So I'll sit up late at night and I'll be laughing and just having a blast. And she rolls over like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now? I'm trying to sleep and I'm just got the headphones on and I'm laughing all loud." But I love you.
I love you too. All right. Well, I did actually want to ask you, of course, I get a little nervous to ask you this question because I know that it can go in a very long, long answer. But what do you think of the world today? Was that whistle your nose?
Yes, it was. Um, I don't want to go into great detail on this because, like I said, I'm a political individual just because I realize how much our government affects our day to day operations. There was a time in our lives when they didn't. You know what I mean? Where, yeah, they affected, like the mass majority over a 4 year span. But now the decisions that they make affect us on a daily basis. And the direction of the world, I'll tell the listeners, like I told a client of mine about a year ago, because that's when, a year ago is when Ukraine got invaded and all of this stuff started going down. And I'll say it like I said to her is the truth of the matter is history repeats itself. No matter how bad we fight it, it always does. Okay? We are watching movements happen that think that they're fresh movements, but they aren't. They're just repeating what has happened in the history. And it is going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better. I am fairly concerned with the recent affairs of our U.S. government and these balloons from China. Because, like I stated to you, you posted on the Facebook, it's like they've got us all looking up. You know what I mean? So you gotta. Okay, so the Chinese have been a long game country for years and years and years. Like, they predicted all of this stuff, I believe, in 1956 at a summit. Might have been 1954. But the entire world, each country wants to be the number one superpower. Well, the atomic bombs and nuclear power gave America that top seat. That it was after World War II that we actually became a world power. And this goes without being said that when somebody is successful, there's always somebody trying to take them down. So, yeah, the state of our world is very scary, but I do have to admit that no matter what, mankind will move forward and will thrive. There's too many people out there that like to, you know, live life correctly and don't care about what foreign affairs or any of that. There's a lot of hardworking individuals in the entire world that just push forward and try and do what's best for their families and for those that they love. And as long as we keep that love, as long as we just keep pushing forward, I don't think it can be stopped. And I think that all evil fails in the end. And that's not a Christianity statement. That's just there are evil people in this world. And like it or not, those people will always fail. It never triumphs. So, for anybody who's worried, you have reason to be worried. But we'll make it through it.
Okay. And where do you see yourself in 10 years?
You just painted an image in my head of something that you sent me in a text. And we're going to be on a beach. And you're going to be having a drink in your hand, laptop sitting on your lap, and we'll have enough money in the bank to not ever have to worry about struggling anymore. And I'm going to be building sandcastles and teaching Addie how to surf.
Yeah, well, 10 years from now, she'll be 17.
Well, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be surfing together. So will Jackie. That's just so you all know. That's something that I actually wanted to do this summer, but we just didn't get the opportunity to. That was something. If you can and you ever do what we did, stop and smell the roses because we really appreciated it after we got back, but we were bustling so hard while we were in there. Like we drove over 10,000 miles in right at 2 months. We were actually back. We were back 60 days later. So in 60 days, we drove 10,000 miles and went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 states, not including Idaho. So
Yeah.
stop and smell the roses every now and then. If you're running back and forth and doing the bustle thing, just know that sometimes it does do a lot of good to just stop and appreciate little things in life.
Mm-hmm.
A smile. It breaks me up every time. My youngest will look at me straight dead in the eyes and say, "Daddy, you're my best friend." And it just melts me. And if I was too tired or too angry or too stressed, it wouldn't have that kind of effect on me. But 9 months ago, we decided to stop and smell the roses. So don't ever deprive yourself of that.
Yeah, I can agree. Last question, and then we'll close it for the night. Like I said, the show's kind of been a lot different than what I normally do, but it still has a lot of good stuff. And still a lot of missing stuff. Like, we didn't even,
We didn't touch base on a lot of things, but that's...
that was a very short summary.
You got to understand that, this is what we do on a nightly basis. So, if we did 365, you guys would probably know everything about us. And we just did, night sessions with us. Which may not even be a bad idea, just as kind of a branch off, Just put the pop mic up there. And just record our nights.
The pop mic?
Whatever it is.
The shotgun mic?
Yeah, there you go. The pop filter. That's what I was thinking. But
what's one word you would use to describe yourself?
determined.
That is a really good one. It's accurate. But I feel like it's, not enough.
It's not. I was going to say that I cannot sum it up in one word. If I could describe my life and everything, it would be... It would be trials, determination. No, it wouldn't. It would be dulcius exasperus.
Oh, yeah? That's a good one. That's a phrase, but I'll take it.
Yep. It's on my family crest. And it just kind of sums up the entire Fergusson lifestyle. Dulcius exasperus is Latin for sweeter after difficulties. So, that does sum up pretty much everything. And it's kind of weird that was already there long before, and the life that I've lived and everything that we've gone through so far, it's right on par.
Well, and we were having a conversation at Thanksgiving one year, and I was kind of saying that exact thing in different words, of course, but it was that concept. It's just it's almost like it's built in. If you're planning on having everything go a certain way, don't, because if you're a Fergusson, your life is going to have a lot of hardships, and kind of like a Saturn return, which all my astrology people, you'll understand that concept, but if you do the work and you learn the lessons and you put your best foot forward and and whatnot, then you will be rewarded for it.
Yeah.
But if you become the victim and you fall prey to everything that happens and you allow it to drag you down, then you're going to be repeating that same thing in a vicious cycle.
There's a lot of victims in the world today, but that's just because they won't actually wake up and see what's going on, take accountability and move forward. Because that's the only, when you have gone through some bullshit, that is your only way forward, is to take account of what part you played in that, correct it, and never do it again, or at least try to never do it again. Because if you're consciously trying to not make the same mistakes, then when you do make those same mistakes, you don't fall into the snowball effect of it, because you already know that you made that mistake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, anyways.
Yeah. That's the end of tonight's show. And I think I'm going to title this one Pillow Talk.
That sounds good.
All right. See you later, guys.
Take it easy.